7 of us?
No.
You see how I...
Oh, sorry, I thought I saw you back. All right, the Madison County Board of Education regular session is called to order. Mr. Weiss, since you are recently refreshed, could you lead us in a word of prayer?
Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing us to gather here today to serve the students, the faculty, the staff, and the families of Madison County Schools, and we ask for your guidance and your divine intervention to help us make the right decisions and the best decisions for our children and our families. In your name, amen.
I recommend approval of the agenda for April 20th, 2017.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Is there, I got some.
Turn this way. There you go.
Any discussion concerning approval of the agenda? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 I recommend approval of the minutes for February 2, February 16th, March the 2nd, and March 23rd.
Motion.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. We'll do some updates here. We got, it's an exciting time. It's the end of the year. We had a big round of testing for the last 2 weeks that I want to thank all of our testing coordinators and students and parents and sending everybody to school ready to go. And kids were kind of fired up to show what they had learned. So we've had a good week of testing. I want to congratulate, Mary Tate was our elementary teacher of the year. She actually made the final 8 for the state. She submitted her video. She had about 2 days to do a video and submit it. And so they will have the finalist selection. And I think that's May the 10th or May the 11th, somewhere in there. It's a Wednesday. There for the selection of that. And we think she's got a good shot at being the state teacher of the year on that. So that's exciting. We got some blue ribbon news update. We have 3 schools that were just awarded. Central won their renewal, that they were already blue ribbon, but they went through the process again for their renewal. And Endeavor Elementary and Riverton Intermediate have worked extremely hard through this process, and they just found out that they were awarded. So there's going to be some celebrations kind of going forward. So I'll try to keep, I don't know, they may have had an impromptu celebration, I'm not sure. But if you get a chance to go to one of those celebrations, I encourage you to do that. That is, our schools really use that as kind of a change agent sort of a thing. It's really going from the good to great. And there's a conference in Orlando that they have every year in Blue Ribbon, some Blue Ribbon schools, and people share best practices and different things. And it is one of the best conferences you can go to, because it is real school people that have already achieved at a high level sharing those practices. So a lot of our schools participate in that. But this is now 13 schools that have achieved that Blue Ribbon Lighthouse Award. So Blue Ribbon has separate awards. That Lighthouse is the highest one. So I'm going to read off those, and that, if that's okay. We've got Owens Crossroads. They renewed in 2016. Buckhorn High School, they're now going through the renewal process. Central just got renewed. Legacy Elementary is a Blue Ribbon Lighthouse. Madison Crossroads, Monrovia Elementary, New Market School, Sparkman Middle, Walnut Grove, Mount Carmel, Riverton Elementary, Endeavor Elementary, and Riverton Intermediate. So they look on student focus and support, community outreach and feedback, and other indicators of success. So that's a huge deal. So congratulate those schools when you get a chance there. We have got notification from the state that our April 5th weather day was forgiven, and so we're going to hold that April 28th weather day. Will be unless something else happens we're not sure about, but right now we're still holding that day as a day off for our employees and for students. So that's April 28th is our weather day for this year. And I want to thank you guys the Garrison had, the Red Stone Arsenal had a luncheon today, and Ms. Rucker and Ms. Bates, you guys were able to make it there, and I appreciate y'all being there. It was a good time of kind of celebrating from school districts all around the Tennessee Valley. Do y'all have anything you want to add on that? Or?
It was enjoyable.
I thought they did a wonderful job. Sometimes I think we get a little caught up in Madison County schools because they're the best. But they had some really nice presentations from some other area school systems, and I think they were not anything that I expected, and it was refreshing to see how other schools are also putting together pieces of performances that are absolutely outstanding and diverse and bring to light the ability for students to rise to a level of excellence.
And Sparkman's drill team and color guard actually did the presentation of the colors. So it was a very cool thing. So I got to sit with General Weiss and get to meet him and get to know him and his wife there. And they're behind us, so that's good to know. All right, do you want to talk about the resolution that we have here for our National Merit Scholars? That
Yes,
we recognized our National Merit Scholars at the last board meeting, but, we wanted all the board members to get to sign it.
Yes, we did not have everyone present when the students were available to be able to recognize them as National Merit Scholars. So at that point, we did go ahead and present this to them, and we read it out loud and gave them something they could remember that by. But today, we'd like to bring that back up. I don't think I need to read the whole thing.
No, I don't think so.
But we'll pass that around after we vote on it and get that signed. We did not vote on it that night because of the fact that we weren't all here, and we wanted them all to have our names signed on it. You couldn't sign it if you didn't vote on it, because we wanted them to know that all of us were happy and proud to be represented by them. So that is a school board resolution, so I guess I need a motion to pass that resolution, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And then we'll pass these around later. Later this evening, we'll get these all signed up, so we don't distract.
Very good. So as an informational item, we have, Ken is going to talk a little bit about the calendar, and I'll kind of chime in a little bit too. One of the things we wanted to do is line up with other systems in the area. They have not approved their 18-19 calendar, but Ken has been negotiating with them and are in a good place. So Ken, you want to?
I like that negotiation. Especially since we try to, they kind of both lead and we end up following to some extent, because they both go different directions and we have to pick one path, either Huntsville or Madison. So here's the calendar. I did meet with Johnny Giles, who is Chief of Staff in Huntsville City, and Dennis James, who's their Pupil Services Director, who is now retiring. And things have changed since they both were working under the previous superintendent. And I believe Mr. Mancy has been in contact with Mr. Parker and Dr. Atkins from Huntsville and Madison. Basically, on 2018-19, what we'd be looking at is the same type of start as we've done this past year, and we revised, where we have the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then we'll have that long weekend right before school starts again. Come in for Institute on July 31st, and then the kids would come in on August 1st. Of course, there would be a staff development day after Labor Day on the 4th of September. All three systems had looked at trying to use October 8th through the 12th for fall break. Since that time, I believe Madison has now gone to a full week, or is looking at a full week, and Huntsville's looking at a long weekend. So they've kind of flip-flopped their positions because they used to be the reverse. So I'm not exactly sure where they're at as far as that, but that is the week that we're all looking at having a form of break. November 12th, of course, would be Veterans Day for celebration of, since it's on Sunday the 11th. And then the following week is Thanksgiving. Again, the full week off for students and teachers, the 19th through the 23rd of November. And the last student day for first semester would be December the 19th. And that would be for teachers and students. That would end up first semester. And then all the other employees would be off from, their last day would be Friday the 21st. We'd return for 2 staff development days on January 3rd and 4th. The students would return on Monday the 7th of January. Of course, we have Presidents and Martin Luther for January and February. And then at the time when the gentlemen I was working with the respective systems, we had all agreed that the week of March 18th through the 22nd would be the spring break week. That puts us with graduations on Tuesday, May 21st and Wednesday the 22nd. Both of those are the days that we just have blocked in with the BBC. Madison has Monday the 20th, we have the Tuesday, Wednesday, Huntsville has the Thursday and Friday, and that's how they organize the arena for all three school systems having graduations there. The last student day would be, right now is tentatively Tuesday the 21st, with the last teacher day being Wednesday the 22nd. And then Mr. Massey also discussed with me the possibility of looking at a weather day or another day, in the sense of possibly taking that on Good Friday, which would be April the 19th.
So,
If we
yeah.
did that, we would extend the school year by a day, so the students would go through the 22nd and the teachers would go through the 23rd.
Yeah, so the feedback we kind of got and was spring break was really cold and early this year, which we picked really because that both systems
You have no idea.
were on that day, so we,
Okay.
you know, we picked that day and, hey, when it's in March, you know what's going to happen. So anyway, it's a little bit further back on this calendar. But the other systems were out for Good Friday, either the full day or half a day, and it was something we've never really taken off Good Friday as a holiday, but it would fit and work if you did. I got, several requests to consider doing that, and so if we did call Friday, 19th, Good Friday, I don't know if you would advise that, we can figure out what we're going to call it. I'm okay with it, calling it that. That graduation day would be a student day on the 22nd. That we would be having school on both of those days, so, and the teachers would work that 23rd of May. The other thing we got in, we didn't want to bring kids back like the day after January the 1st or January the 2nd, so we have that, and then that 4-day week. So when you do all that, we end up starting school, kids come back in August, or the first day of August, and so it just, I know we want to bring them back later in August, but some systems bring back the 6th, they get 3 more days, but, when you choose one thing, there's a counterbalance there.
I say, because this year we started on the 3rd of August, next year we start on the 2nd of August, we're kind of creeping into July.
Well, what we
I'm
don't-
concerned that next year, or the
Yeah.
year after, we're going to be 31 July to start school.
What we didn't want to, what was clear from year before last is we started students on a Monday. We kind of did that. We started a little bit later. So we said, okay, kids come back Monday. And that was so hard on so many teachers. So we said, hey, we would be, we could either come back that Wednesday or come back earlier. Obviously, we could have come back earlier, and the feedback was in, hey, let's start on Wednesday. For kindergarten, they could, they filter those guys in. They bring them in thirds. Some on Wednesday, that's their first day. So their first day of school there's a phase in that. So the start on a Wednesday, Dave, is kind of what bumps that earlier, but starting on a Monday would wore teachers out, and students and parents and kids that first day, that first time back. But it is getting earlier and earlier, and that's something we don't want kids coming back in July, that's for sure.
What's been your main feedback from this proposed calendar?
It's interesting. Ken, go ahead.
They've had it since March 29th, and this is one of those things that my phone gets blown up when we send the calendar out, and I have not heard a single word yet. So either they didn't realize it and it was attached, and it's this very draft that you're looking at, or they're not really, there's really nothing that has come up that they're so upset about that they've wanted to voice their opinion. Now, I will send out a follow-up saying that it was presented to the board tonight in the work session part, and that we'll be looking at moving forward with the calendar in May. So, and give them another opportunity, because this is usually one of the things that the employees really are, they voice their concerns about, is the calendar. But it really does follow pretty much what we've done for the last couple of years. The only thing that changes is really the holiday break drives a lot of this because of the way Christmas Day moves, and then also, the way graduations are established. Those two things really dictate a lot of how we move, because we got to have a half a year in the front half and a half of the other. So that's kind of what, we kind of start from the middle and start from the end and work backwards. And it's pretty much following pretty much what they've been acclimated to for the last couple of years and what next year's is as well. So I haven't heard anything at all positive nor negative at this point yet. But I will send a follow-up just to, make sure that we get their input on this.
And it's odd how the dates change, like in 18, 19, the Good Friday is almost a full week ahead of what, last week's Good Friday, this year's Good Friday was, so it just makes things odd. The other thing that we're trying to kind of dance around here is in October for fall break, there's the PSAT testing goes on during the second or third week of October. We don't have dates from College Board on that, but that's a test to become a National Merit Scholar that now a lot more folks are taking. There is a makeup day for that that you can do, but it's the general test is we think we're hitting it right, but that's one of the reasons. I think that was kind of some of the things where the systems was kind of like, well, we want to make sure we're clear of that. Well, we want to make sure it splits the first 9 weeks and second 9 weeks in half. So anyway, that was one of the kind of things that's around. But we're making more efforts probably than ever with with the new superintendents. They both are going to try to because that's why we've been hesitant to bring this up. With the new superintendents come on board and we're going to be pretty well aligned with the week Thanksgiving break. That's another new thing, Dave, that we kind of added days there. The reason we did that was last year the first time we did that full week.
No.
Last school year, yeah.
This is the third year.
So we had, before coming in, it was our most missed days in the whole school year from students was that Monday and Tuesday of Thanksgiving. We'd have 25% of our students would be absent. So we said, hey, we'll just, and that's the accountability measure by the state. So that's why it's the full week there. That's been we've had very positive feedback from that. So.
Typically, the PSAT is used that second week in October, the second Wednesday or the third Wednesday, and it fluctuates. And it's a guess. I've called the College Board and asked them, and they won't tell me when the date is for the 18-19. So
if it ends up being a conflict, what will we do about it?
there's a makeup date for it.
Okay.
We know it's going to be that second or third Wednesday. Last year on our calendar, we went ahead and approved our calendar the way it was, and just to show you all how brilliant you are as a board, the other two decided that they were going to roll the dice, and they went with the second week in October, and that's when PSAT hit, and they've gone back and adjusted their fall breaks because they wanted them to be in, and it's like, I think it's the 9th, might be the 9th this next year. So it just depends on, we don't know, and that's just a roll of the dice.
And we don't want to adjust our fall break week, so that's something we would not.
It comes
ask you
after
to
the
do.
first 9 weeks, right?
Well, it can,
Well,
but
it
it
does,
doesn't have
doesn't
to.
it? But I mean, right now, it looks like it does,
Yes.
doesn't it?
But that's been the kind of the thing with spring break, the reason it was earlier is it split the third and fourth 9 weeks, but I don't think this one, we're not even recognizing a beginning or the end of the 9 weeks, right? That's really how grading is done. That report card is really almost like a progress report because it's accumulated grade in there. So the 9 weeks grade, the date that goes out is kind of independent. We're trying not to get too tied in on that and really make that week more flexible. Because when we said, hey, we're doing it this week because that's the end of the 9 weeks, well, it didn't. We did that when we did last year, and our spring breaks didn't line up with others. So we said, it's more important to line up our breaks, and then if it hits at the end of a 9 weeks, then good. If it doesn't, our teachers can adjust.
But we do want to make it clear that we cannot control the weather during any break, is that
I
correct?
try.
You can't?
We can't. No. Let the minutes show.
So if you add-
Mother Nature, as you are not?
We are not.
Okay.
I'm old enough to be Mother Nature, but I'm not.
If you add Good Friday, that's going to be just a holiday, or is that going to be a weather day?
Well, I'd like for it to be a holiday.
I don't have it listed on the other system's calendar, so we can look at it.
We're not going to
You have
approve. We have
Christmas
another work
economic.
session, and we'll be approving the Our May 15th meeting, I think it's 15th.
Regular session.
Yeah, our regular, so that's going to be up for approval. If the board wants that day off and to put it at the end, there's no other breaks in April.
I mean,
Doesn't-
Mary Louise is just saying, I mean, that's not a government, from the government doesn't give that day off. I mean, if I want that day off, I have to take personal vacation
Right.
time. But
So that's something to consider.
I don't disagree with it, I'm just saying from that perspective, there's not a. Do have a question. Have we ever considered, speaking of holidays and days off, have we ever considered putting fall break during the time where Columbus Day is, which is a federal holiday?
It is.
Is it?
Well,
Is Columbus Day the 12th or the 15th?
It's the 12th.
I thought it was always the third Monday of the month. I could be wrong.
We did
Well,
not hit
I don't know how the
it.
government does it, but it is the
Is it
12th.
if it's the 12th, that's fine. I mean,
But I mean, I don't know if they recognize it on the actual day that it is.
yeah, I
but-
don't know either.
Well, that's one of the things in trying to hit the 9 weeks, we missed Columbus Day. And that was a pain for our police officers that have kids at school, where they're off, that's, let me search that real quick.
That just.
That's the way Madison did it.
Yeah.
Madison City did it, they did the long weekend, they did the Friday,
Something.
Monday, and they always wrapped it around
Columbus Day.
Because they didn't have to worry about the PSAT, because they were always in on a Wednesday. So this is the first time after talking with Mr. Giles and Mr. James that the two are flip-flops and Huntsville's looking at a long weekend type thing and Madison's looking at a full week. So again, since there's been a change in superintendents, all we had was the definitive date. I have spoken with Mr. Giles because he's still over it, but Mr. James, again, he's retired now from the school system in Madison.
And the 8th is Columbus Day, so it would actually hit on
Does
that
it?
day
Okay, it
this
is on the
time.
8th. Okay.
But I don't think it did this year. I don't think
No,
our fall
it
break hit
didn't.
them. And I know it didn't last year. I'm not sure about.
It's hit and miss.
Yeah, it's mostly
Miss.
miss. Yeah, I don't know where we are next year.
Don't most school systems that have the Good Friday day in there call it a weather day? And then if they have to use it to make up for weather, they don't have it? Isn't that how they typically do it?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
but
see it that
we
way.
weren't gonna the weather day just put so many question marks like this. We gotta talk about, hey, we're going to school, we're not going to school on weather day, or we might. Now they changed the law to where from a number of days to number of hours. So we actually our school day is long enough where we could actually go 172 days and meet our requirement.
Okay.
So honestly, if they did, there's really no reason to have a weather day anymore in a calendar. But they probably call it that conveniently, and we just didn't land it on that day because a lot of times the tornadic weather continues on into April. So if we're going to have a weather day, let's give us enough room to use it. Well, we didn't really think about it, just use it as Good Friday without calling it Good Friday, so. But we can, I don't know what else you would call that, but it really would need to be up to the
Friday.
board if y'all wanted to do that. I mean, it's something we've never done before, but it would work.
All right, any more discussion?
All right. Well, I figured that would take longer.
Well, I would just say that in the election year, for all of you for counting, I would protect fall break.
Look, fall break is not an option.
People love fall break.
When
They
you
do.
ask, how many emails do you get about any other, I've never, ever gotten as many as when we didn't have fall break.
You
Fall
had it
break
until
was
you
the most interaction I had with the most amount of people the year, it was 2 years, wasn't it, that the legislature eliminated fall break?
Oh, really?
Yes.
I don't know, maybe it's one, seemed like two.
No, it was
Was it
two.
Was
two?
it two?
Mm-hmm. Because it was
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
To keep
to keep the tourism.
they didn't
alive.
realize how much money we spent down there in Baldwin County.
During fall break.
Now they know.
But people have those planned for years
They do.
ahead of time.
They're already planning cruises and
Yeah.
things, so that's why we need it.
Alabama supports Disney fall break.
They do. All right, we'll go to administrative actions. And I recommend the approval of the financial statement, payment of bills, and cash reports for February 2017.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 I recommend approval of the following bids as attached.
Motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 I recommend approval of the library handbook as attached.
Motion.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I just want to say thank you again to the ladies who came. I had no idea that much went into the library, so I appreciate them giving us an opportunity to learn that.
Yeah, and that was actually one of the, county systems are required to use the state auditors with that by law, and it was, I think, Karen, wasn't that one of the things that the state auditors recognized last year, that, hey, you need to update your board approved of the library handbook? And we're like, oh, yeah. So it's,
Yeah.
So we're already on it.
but we were already in the process of doing that and getting it updated.
I think they did a good job.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate that extra effort. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 I recommend approval of the following contracts for services as attached.
Motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion regarding contract for services? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 I recommend approval of the salary schedule for coaching supplements as attached.
No, personnel items is next.
I'm
Personnel
sorry,
items.
I just checked the wrong one. Let's go back to item E. I recommend approval of the following personnel items and the addendums as attached.
We skip E in the grading scale, too.
Under transfers, I guess we need a motion in a second.
Mm-hmm.
Motion.
Are you, was that your motion?
Second, well, I'll second it, but we need to separate out under transfers number 2.
Gotcha.
You be willing to separate your recommendation,
You'll
Mr.
have to-
Superintendent?
Let me-
Under transfers.
Page 5.
I figured you knew.
Okay, so that's number 2 on page
10 years, but now
Regular
we're
agenda.
moving them.
5.
I got you. Okay.
Okay. All right, so I'll make that recommendation. So am I making 2, or are you abstaining, Mary Louise?
I'm abstaining from that one.
She's
Well, I
asking you
mean,
to
we need to
bifurcate.
separate them out because
She's
I'm going to
asking me
vote
to
on
separate.
everything else.
Okay,
Yeah.
I got you. So you want to vote on everybody else?
So
All right.
you need to amend your recommendation to be all personnel actions except for number 2 on page
Mhm.
5.
Okay.
So that's the, if that's okay.
Yep. that works. All right, so I'll amend that recommendation for all personnel except page 5, number 2.
Do you have a motion?
Motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the amended motion to the personnel agenda, I'm sorry, personnel items minus number 2 on page 5.
Aye.
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 Aye. And then we need a.
Thank you. All right, now I want to make a recommendation, personnel item number 2 on page 5. Almost caught out of name.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the recommendation on the personnel items, page 5, number 2. Any discussion? All those in favor,
Well,
please
wait,
say.
I mean, I don't understand the issue, so you're going to have to discuss it.
It's my daughter.
Oh, okay, okay.
We fired her before, but we're just transferring
Okay, so you're
this
just
stuff.
abstaining because of the relationship.
Right.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstaining?
Abstain.
All right. Item F.
Just kidding.
All right, I recommend approval of the salary schedule for coaching supplements as attached.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I think we still need to work on this a little bit because we've got the high school address, we've got the middle school address, but we completely left out the middle section of JV and freshmen. So I think we still need to address those. It doesn't make sense to me. It seems skewed.
Do we currently identify JV and ninth grade separately in the coaching supplements? I apologize for
We
not
currently
knowing that.
do. And so what this would do is actually call them assistants.
Okay.
And they'll be treated all as assistants, so, under the head coach, so.
You'd have,
But as far as changing the salary for those, we didn't
So
do
it's-
an increase for that.
Say that again?
So like in basketball,
Right.
so in football, you have a head coach.
Yeah.
We have coordinators and then assistants. All right, so those assistants can be, hey, go coach the JV, go coach the freshman, whatever. But it's odd, in basketball and in baseball, we have a head coach, JV coach, ninth grade coach. So technically, the ninth grade coach can, you can say, well, that's not my job's coach ninth grade. So it really is, it makes it easier to run if there's a head coach and two assistants, rather than a head coach, a JV, and a freshman.
Because then head coach can throw one of those assistants down to the lower.
Yeah, and they really all work together. All three of them would coach JV, and all three of them would coach freshmen. So this really just makes it easier on the school to kind of, they'll probably they could designate somebody, hey, you're going to be in charge of ninth grade, but they're labeled and board approved as an assistant.
Okay.
So
And-
you're
and
not
I-
doing the phase-in, right? You talked about a phase-in.
Yeah, so the pay, what this does is it for head coaches, it allows for 2 steps. Previous versions had 3 steps and different things. And I do think that it's hard, there's probably no right way to get it, and it's just, we just need to make an adjustment because it's been a long time coming, and it is, principals have a hard time finding coaches and keeping coaches, and this is really something that benefits our kids. And so it would be a phase-in, though, so for the 17-18 year, coaches could only qualify for step 1. For the 18-19 year, they could qualify for step 2 with 7 years of experience. Some of the step zeros are lower than what they are right now, so a couple sports have a reduction, but for those current coaches, they wouldn't see a loss in pay.
Can you remind us which ones see a
Yeah,
reduction?
that's basketball and outdoor track.
And what's the current?
Current has basketball at 8,000, and just kind of getting feedback was, that in looking at analysis, it may not, it may be above market statewide. It's kind of at market locally, but if we're doing 2 steps, it's kind of on that second step. It was a valid point we're saying that it's step 2 that really gets a little more out of the norm. It's kind of an outlier there. So really kind of looking at the end in mind there with step 2 on the basketball at 9,000 would be that step 2. And we'd be bringing up the baseball and softball in line with that. Baseball and softball programs now are, the expectations of that, their area games involve weekend series, so they're playing Friday nights and Saturday nights. That's the norm. Weekend tournaments, it's different than what it was.
Are the principals comfortable with what you've presented here? All
I think
to
so. I
include
got a
the middle
principal in the
and then-
back. I don't know, you just walked in, Principal Shaw.
Yes, sir.
We're going to ask you to speak for all principals here. We're talking the coaching supplement proposal with that, with the steps. Any feedback from principals that?
No, they're very excited, like we talked about at the previous board meeting, in 20 years, they're highly encouraged, and they really appreciate y'all taking this into consideration. I know it's got them the possibility if this was to pass, they're very excited. They feel like, especially if it's on par with the other school systems, that we felt like we've been lagging behind in the past. And so I think it would just enhance our quality and coaching just better and better.
Let's just take basketball. Nobody's going to be higher than step 1 right now. Is that what you said?
Correct. For the next school year, step 1 is the highest you could go. Now, their salaries are current $8,000.
Right.
So we would keep them.
They would be grandfathered
They'd be
in.
grandfathered in.
Any coach in any sport that is making more than this salary schedule shows will not see a loss in their supplement.
That's correct. That could potentially happen, or that the instances there would be for basketball, boys and girls, and for outdoor track, boys and girls.
My observation too is now, before I said basketball was, more than market. Now I think baseball and softball is. And so we kind of fixed one problem and created another one. If you go look at the, the examples that you gave us of other systems. So I still don't really see the rationale there. I understand they're playing more games and all of that, but you're still trying to line it up with market. And especially in light of our finances, I can't justify paying more than we have to.
Well, I think it's with market, but it's also what those coaches have to do with what the basketball coaches and softball coaches have to do. So like sports with fields, just regular rectangular fields, other people share the field. Sometimes the band practices on them, or the soccer team and the football team, and different sports use them, and they all kind of take turns sharing the field. With the baseball field, it has to be maintained year-round, even though there's seasons when part of it, and there's nobody else to take care of that. Little league teams don't come up and use it. Summer league generally doesn't. So the time requirement now and the expectations and the performance that they've had, if the board wants to lower that back down to where it was, we can do that. But I think it is very fair to consider it on par with basketball. And from the time commitment, so there's more time, there's more field maintenance, and they oversee probably about 50 players if there's a ninth grade team and JV team. So they have more kids, and there's more supervision required. Not that one's a tougher job than all that. I mean, all these jobs are tough, but I just think that warrants it to at least be equal to that. And I think that's a different, maybe approach than what our system had when this was done 20 years ago. And so I feel like that is showing that value there. So I understand, and there may be, the majority of the board may not want to do this with the baseball and softball up there, but those teams are, tonight, or maybe it's tomorrow night, Buckhorn and Sparkman are playing. They're the number 4 and 6 ranked teams in the state. Hazel Green's a powerhouse. New Hope's in the playoffs playing people. So our softball teams compete for championships. I mean, it's because of what those coaches have done, developing those programs and taking care of those facilities, and the amount of loans that people have taken through the board and have to work hard to pay them off. I just think it rises to the level of the expectation that it's kind of the community has in that.
We haven't addressed this in
20 years.
20 years.
I haven't been on the board 20 years.
I know that. I wasn't
Yeah.
implying that. You've been in the system for 20 years.
Right, and I was on the committee, I think, that did, as a teacher, that did the last supplement, so it's been at least 20 years.
My point is that this should be a working, breathing document. It's something that we should not let atrophy for 20 years. It's something that, and maybe you need to redo your recommendation, it's something that we should review within a year of implementing it, when it's implemented it, to make sure that it is working the right way. And then every 2 years after that, we should probably be reviewing it again. It should be a continuous improvement process. And adjust, look at all the other schools and systems locally around us. We're trying to fix something that is 20 years old. So I think we're at a point where we're pretty good with it right now. I don't think we're ever going to make it perfect. I mean, I can make a recommendation that somebody may not like, and somebody else can make a recommendation that I may not like. I don't think we're ever going to find that, 100% solution. In my opinion, I think we're at about a 95% solution, and I think we need to review it on a much more regular basis than every 2 decades.
Yeah, and, that's a great point, Dave. And the salary schedule, oddly enough, you guys have to approve it every year. So it's been up. It's just such a difficult task to tackle that it's just been easier to go, let's just pass it on. But it is approved and up for discussion with the board every year. But if we wanted to, I think every 2 years go in a serious revisit of this. And
Well, I think we need to look at it.
Is a great point.
I think we need to look at it again next year, once it's implemented, if it is implemented. I think we need to look at it and review it again next year at this time. Make sure that, is it working? Is it right?
Okay, and then every 2 years subsequent to that, we should be reviewing it, and it should be a part of our policy, because like I said, 2 decades is pretty bad governance in my mind, to wait.
Well, and you know, we're going to be discussing athletics policy at the next work session. You know, if there were a board member or two that wanted to kind of have an athletics policy review or athletics supplement review, because it does come up for a vote and discussion, but it would be good to really get an analysis of this, because we do want to address assistant coaches. We do want to address clubs. There's new things that we're doing now that we weren't doing before, from archery to, and there's things on here that we don't do anymore with the clubs. So, yeah, I think that's a great suggestion, Dave.
So I don't know if we want to put that in the policy, or if you want to amend your recommendation that, you know, you recommend approval of this with.
It's a year-by-year basis. So
Year-by-year
it literally
basis.
is for the 17-18 school year. So this is really just a one-year thing.
Okay.
And next year it'll be a 1 year again.
How do you determine how many assistants you get per sport? Are you doing it by
Yeah.
school, or how are you dividing it? Because what I'm seeing here, you might need some descriptive language. For example, if you're just put this in the salary schedule, it's not clear that, you know, step 2 doesn't start
Yeah.
until the next year. So I was looking at maybe, you know, currently you've got, in your salary schedule, you'll have little phraseology that Kim has
Right.
put in there that describes and further explains.
So for how many assistants each sport gets is not in policy, and really the athletic director, which has been Tim or Mark, gets with Karen, and we
And they
we look at the
allocate.
budget and we
Okay.
allocate it.
Based on how many kids are in.
Based on how many kids are in there,
Yeah.
or
Well,
how
I
many
think it
teams
is,
that
I
you
think
have.
in football, it is
Yeah,
in
football.
procedure how many assistants you have to have because of the safety issue. I mean, I think we put that in several years ago.
It is, and there's a guide for that, and that, yes,
Okay.
for
So
safety.
that's
of our
spelled
son.
out somewhere.
Yeah,
And-
we have that documented.
Good.
We feel good, I'm asking, this is a question, that our Title IX issues are addressed here. I know we see volleyball. I guess volleyball is a female sport. Football could be both, but normally it's just males. The other things, except for baseball and wrestling, I guess a girl can wrestle in Alabama. But I just need to know that we feel good, that we have addressed that.
Yeah, so when we were doing, the steps are 25% increase from the previous step, so that's very consistent. So when we raised step 0 for football, to be compliant, we raised step 0 for volleyball.
Okay?
So that balances that out. We didn't need to just move baseball up with basketball, or just softball up with basketball, so both were at that level. So baseball and softball need to stay at the same level all the time. Soccer needs to stay at the same level. So, Ken, anything else to add with that? Or Tom?
No, that was the key thing, was to make sure that we, whatever the percentage we moved football, we
Okay.
also included volleyball.
Okay.
Since that was traditionally male-female sports. and
Right.
To ensure that we were in compliance there, but all the other ones were moved accordingly with their sport area anyhow.
I have a quick question, and it may be kind of stupid when it comes to Title IX, but does Title IX only protect the students who play that sport, or does it have any application to the coach? For instance, if a female coach was coaching football, and you paid her less, does it, and this, I'm not actually asking that question in reference to what we're presently talking about, I just wonder if Title IX in any way also covers our staff, or does it just cover students? Okay. I thought so, but I just wanted to make sure I clarified that in my mind as we're marching through this subject. Thank you.
What's the annual budget hit on this with this new proposal?
115,000.
The,
She sent it out.
Increase?
Sent it out today.
If the total's 95,000, looking at this for an update.
But that's what doesn't include the 20,000.
With the 20,000 benefits, so you're looking at like 115,000. I sent you an email today, and I know you haven't had time to see the hundreds of emails you've gotten today.
Thank you.
You're
Sorry.
welcome.
That was the one I did.
So what is the consequence of waiting 4 more months or 3 more months, whenever it ends up being?
We can't.
To see how this works with the budget as a whole, because 2 of us haven't ever been through the budget process. Nathan kind of got in the tail end of it last year. So I have hesitation about passing this now too, because, I mean, we have a lot of needs, a lot of capital needs, and how do we know that we can really afford this until we see the whole picture?
You know, that's a great point, because it's, how we budget based on priority of what the priority is. So we had, when we brought in Canvas, and we have that contract, and that's something that we're committed to. That was a 3-year contract, but, you know, something we're going to look to extend. That is, we're making this a priority, we're giving this as a tool to our teachers, and you budget around those priorities. There's different instructional support and services that we have within that budget, and you do that priority-based budgeting. So with this being the priority, and I'm saying it is, because it affects thousands of students and hundreds of teachers, and or about 150 teachers would be directly impacted by this. And we think it will improve the instructional program, because we'll be able to keep our quality folks. And so that, we're saying that as a priority, and so the budget, there'll be a ripple effect through that, and this would kind of go in. So we're basically saying by this, is that this is a priority. We're going to, when we formulate the budget next time, we're going to have to take into account this piece. So it's just like if we made any of those priorities, you fit it in, and you have to, other things may get squeezed out, or you find ways to combine different things. So what we're saying by this is we're saying this is a priority. That's why this is such a big deal, and why it hasn't been changed in 20 years.
What's the consequence of waiting a few months?
Well,
Until we can see that
because
whole-
the season starts in 17. I mean, we've got coaches that are going to be getting hired this summer. We're approaching the end of the school year, and, you know, this is the right time to do it, if not 3 months ago, honestly, you know, in February and March. And so it affected Chris Shaw's hiring of a head coach. It did. It affected New Hope's hiring of a head coach, because we couldn't tell of what, you know, exactly what, so we can hope this happens, but we couldn't. If it would have been approved then, that would have helped. Waiting 4 months until the next year starts, you already got your coaches in place. It's kind of, you know, if we're going to do it, now's the time, because it affects
How
that.
many people does it affect in the next 4 months?
It affects 150 coaches. So if somebody's teaching in their 6th year, and they say, you know what, I've done volleyball enough, I'm going to turn that over to somebody else. I'm just, you know, give it to somebody else, because I've been doing it for 6 years.
And Ms. Rucker, this helps in making the decision, because the new folks have not been through the budget process. The personnel part of the budget must begin in May and June, so that we can work with department heads in the summer for non-personnel costs. In August, we're completing the federal part of the budget, and I think I've seen a budget timeline to you, or I will. So if you wait until August, you know, your personnel costs must go in first. And then you prioritize after that all of our annual licenses, our utilities, and our fixed costs. Then we work with department heads on other areas where we have needs. Because we can do anything, but not everything. So I really can't wait until August for a decision when we're budgeting. That, you know, personnel costs, if this is a priority, then it impacts the entire budget, and personnel costs, of course, are fixed costs that we need to look at. If that makes a difference in your decision.
I guess I'm going back to the CapEx and all the facility needs we have. And how do we know we're going to be able to do everything we need to do?
I don't know if that amount is going to solve that problem.
No, but 10 of these amounts would, or, you know, 20 of these kind of amounts. So, I mean, I don't know.
And in the personnel costs, you know, we have folks retiring and folks coming in under, of course, their salaries are all different. So once we get that in, we know and can compare to last year how much of this was made up with changes in our personnel. And so it's just very helpful, really, to get started in May with that. And usually you'd be surprised how it balances out when you're just looking, well, this is not, like Ms. Rucker said, this is absolutely not small. But as far as looking at the big picture, how much of that we might be able to absorb in other places with the changes in personnel, with folks retiring and folks coming in. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. I mean, we're on a timeline. May is about the
We begin, staffing's been completed for the most part. We will wait to see what the state does as far as the divisors. So we might be able to add a couple of teachers with a divisor change, but, that would be the only thing unless, something major occurs. But, so I have those numbers, and then we'll begin rolling and looking at what we're currently paying and looking at personnel costs in the middle of May.
So going back to my first comment about not looking at the assistants, it's kind of screwy because I think soccer, for instance, the middle school head coach is going to make $1,600, but the freshman assistant coach, which I guess is really the head coach, is going to make $600. When you don't address the middle of the schedule, it sort of leaves a screwy schedule.
Well, and that's why I think coming back and revisiting this and doing it in phases is very favorable to do. So that's what I would like to address it in that manner. And that's what, coming back up and seeing is, I just worry about doing all that one time. But I think we can do it over time to address that. So, it's, if we didn't do anything, they're still going to be out of whack. If we fix the head coaching piece first, then we can analyze the assistant coaching piece the next year and go from there.
I have one other question, like in baseball, if there's a pitching, is there a pitching coach? I guess there is.
There's actually, they got to have a pitch count now, so they have to have somebody actually, there must be an extra official to count pitches because there's a pitch limit now. They got to be a certified pitch counter. But before we had JV coach, ninth grade coach, this would just be assistants for that. So no, there's no assistant that's a pitching coach. And they may have that responsibility to coach pitchers, but there's not we would never make a recommendation for a pitching coach. It would just be for an assistant coach.
Okay.
Unless Kyle came back and said he wanted to coach pitching, we might have to make an exception like that.
So, yeah, we have
Kyle's
an
right.
alumni that could be one of the top picks in the MLB draft this June, so, yeah, be nice if he came back a little bit. No.
And one other question, do booster clubs ever hire a coach outright?
No, you guys approve the coaches.
But I
You
mean,
guys
do they
hire.
ever provide them funding for extra coaching?
Not for coaching.
Coaches' aides,
Yeah.
they do
That's
personnel
what they're
actions.
called, so, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
But it all comes through us.
Yes, ma'am.
And so those coaches' aides get the same amount as an assistant coach, or is that?
They can't make more than that. That's what the policy says. If you have a coach's aide, they have to make this much. Or they can't make more than that. So what we have sometimes is we have you may have an assistant coaching supplement for football that's $3,200. But I was actually hired under this, so I know this. But that can be split among 3 people. So somebody might get $1,200 and 2 people might get $1,000. So coaching supplements can be split 2 or 3 ways. So just because somebody it doesn't mean that every assistant coach is making $3,200. So when we have coach's aides, you can't come in and pay a coach's aide how much you want. There's a
set amount you divide amongst
yeah,
the
and this
meeting.
policy says it is, this coaching aide will be paid the assistant coaching supplement.
You could have 2 coaches, aides, each making 32.
You
No,
could,
You could.
yeah, but you can't write a supplement for more than what, a coach's aide can't make more than what the board-approved assistant coach supplement is.
So it's not like there's an allocation of 32 and they have to split that. They could actually make individually 3,200 if you have more than.
Right, if you're the head baseball coach and you have 2 assistant supplements, but you
Right.
wanted 3 coaches, you basically have, it's almost like a salary cap to split it up between
Okay.
that. between 3 people instead of 2.
Yeah,
But you
okay.
can't, one person can't make more than that amount.
But a booster club could come in and pay another assistant if they had the money, if they ran it through the board.
Yeah, booster club.
But they couldn't pay more than the, what
And
it
it has to
says.
be
Board
approved.
approved policy.
All right, is there any more discussion concerning the salary schedule for coaching supplements that is currently recommended? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Yep.
All right,
Okay.
letter G.
All right, so this is, I recommend to approve the revision of the Madison County Board of Education Policy 7.3.1. This is the grading policy. We've looked at a lot of different versions. This is literally what we have right now, but formatted in a little more clear way. It's easier to interpret. So it's really an update to the policy, but we're not changing the grading policy. Does that make sense to say?
So this is just, so what was in the policy? Just a different format was in the policy before? It's the same
What was
policy?
in the policy was, what the current 7.3.1 is. It basically has like 100 as kind of a ceiling, and it doesn't really show how you can make above 100. It has a footnote down there to kind of, it was kind of a Band-Aid. There's an asterisk and a footnote. This really is a clear representation of what we are doing
Okay.
based on the footnotes.
And we're doing this right now in our schools?
We are doing this right now, that's right.
All right, we have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Motion and a second. Do we have any discussion concerning the recommendation to update nothing on the current grading policy?
Well, it's an update to policy 7.3.1. We
Okay.
ran it through policy review. And I will say, and I'll discuss a little more, because I advocated a weighted,
Several changes.
a weighted,
Yeah, we weighted thing.
an additional weight for all grades and then just for an A, B, or C. And honestly, coming back, I'm just not sure if it's the right time to do that. I think I do appreciate you guys engaging with me in that discussion. And it's, it's really led to some deeper talks between our instructional team and, with our school administrators. And I think we want to reach out to our lower income students and minority students. And I think, we can still do that, and we can do it earlier, at an earlier age. But this, I think this is the right thing to do.
I
right
can't
now.
tell you the number of students that came up to me at various events or activities and had some very strong opinions on this. So it was interesting to get
You
there.
had students?
Oh, yeah.
See,
In addition to the students that were here, I had students that came up to me at events or activities or in the grocery store and had some very, very strong opinions on.
were they pretty consistent in what they,
Pretty much.
where do they line up at?
Yeah, I mean, they felt that keep it where it is.
Yeah.
They didn't see the benefits of trying to increase it, going above.
And I love the engagement that our students have with all of our policy discussions, because all this directly affects them. And, that, I've really been able to, I've enjoyed working with my student council to kind of be kind of the ambassador and to go back and forth. And it's good to hear what they have to say, for sure. So they're advocating definitely for their education.
All right, any further discussion on the recommendation for the grading policy? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 I guess I vote no against my recommendation, do I?
We don't vote.
All right, so here we go. Item H, and I recommend approval of the payment of the attorneys, Alabama's Council of School Board Attorneys membership renewal fees for George Morrison, Cindy Thompson, and to authorize Cindy Thompson to attend the ACSBA conference.
Motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Was that 3 ayes?
No, I said aye.
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 4 ayes? Okay, and I vote no. It's not personal.
All right, and we have an executive session next time.
Yes, so we have multiple things to go into executive session for. We have certificates for all of those. For those of you who are present, we will return from executive session to vote on 2
There are
items?
4 student
Four-
issues.
4 student issues. After we vote on the 4 student issues, we will return to executive session to discuss pending litigation, and then when we come back, we will have nothing to do but to adjourn. So just so you guys are aware of the order we'll be doing things in, so if anyone is wanting to stay for any of those votes, you are now aware of what will happen. And right now, I'll take a motion to move into executive session to discuss student issues.
So moved.
Second?
A motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Just borrow mine. Got it now?